Today with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go through Konica Minolta second quarter numbers. We got 6 months worth of numbers in. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers aren't good. I mean, as I shared with you yesterday when I told you I was going to do the episode today, their operating profit above the line is as thick as a playing card. It's like 0%. It's not a big deal. And I know Konica, they like to get excited. Oh, we finally made some operating profit. Their lack of consistency in delivering operating profit is scary at best. And their lack of actually forecasting reality is scary at best. They're the worst forecasters in the entire industry. And I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm reading some sub notes. And folks, it made me put this picture of a magician on the front cover of today's episode. There he is right there. And you can see the magician has some playing cards in his hand. One of those cards is professional print, head office expenses, digital workplace, corporate, etc. Shuffle them around. Above the magician's head, I'm asking, is hiding the cost finding the profit? Is hiding the cost finding the profit? Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, Konica Minolta is a conglomerate. And they can have some business units within that conglomerate that are profitable a quarter here and a quarter there. Completely inconsistent. But at the end of the day, if the conglomerate itself is not profitable, it doesn't matter what that business unit's profitability is, 1 quarter here, 1 quarter there. It's the health of the conglomerate. And when I look at Konica Minolta and I look at these numbers over the last 3.5 years, I'm baffled. I'm baffled because it seems like they're continuing to do the same old things they've always been doing. And we all know what that means. Are they insane? Ladies and gentlemen, there seems to be just an absolute lack of discipline. There seems to be an absolute lack of, somebody screaming at the top of their lungs to fix the profitability of this company. And even when they do forecast, which they never hit, they're forecasting operating profits that are sub 2%. It's scary. It's scary. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share my presentation with you, but I did a comparison between Konica Minolta and Kyocera in a certain component of the financials. And when I did this comparison, it was a big slap in the face that told me exactly what's wrong with Konica Minolta. It's allowed me to really, really rifle focus in on this. And I think after today's episode, a lot of my friends are going to see the same thing I saw. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right in there. The first thing we want to do is we want to talk about their top line revenue for the 6 months is $3.6 billion. They had an operating profit of $53 million. Whippy, it's not a big deal, folks. It's 0%. And by the way, in the corporate, etc., they had a $94.4 million operating loss. But I'm looking at the footnotes. Let me just read this to you. Adjustment for head office expenses. Some part of expenses regarding the whole corporate had been transferred to each business segment until FY2022 and has not been transferred in FY2023. The figures in the table are those ones adjusting the cost allocation of FY2022 results for the FY2023 base as a reference. They include the common expenses in digital workplace business and professional print. Ladies and gentlemen, holy crap. You know when you go to the polls and you're going to vote on something? And the question is, if you don't want the bridge to be built, vote yes. And so the person's in the booth and they're like, oh, I don't want that bridge to be built. And they just vote no. By accident, the bridge gets built. It's kind of like this. This is just convoluted. Just tell us what the hell's going on here, Konica. What do you mean you're transferring business expenses? You're not transferring business expenses. If you do the comparison, the operating profit drops from where it was in 2022. It doesn't really matter. None of this crap matters. None of this crap matters. If this operating profit for the whole conglomerate doesn't start getting above 1%, 0%, 1.6%, that's what matters. Here's the comparison, ladies and gentlemen, and this is really an eye-opener. So let's look at Konica Minolta. Their total revenue for the 6 months ending September 30, 2023 was $3.6 billion. Here's something really, really bizarre. Selling, general, and administrative expenses, $1.6 billion. So their total revenue is $3.6 billion. Selling and general administrative expenses are $1.6 billion, leaving them a $53 million operating profit. Let's compare that to Kyocera. Same period of time. Kyocera's top line revenue is $6.5 billion. double the revenue, okay? Selling, general, and administrative expenses, $1.5 billion. They brought in double the revenue for less than Konica's spending. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big issue. Kyocera had a $359 million operating profit. Konica Minolta sitting on a $53 million. Think about this. This is so bizarre to me. So Konica Minolta, 6 months, they bring in $3.6 billion. The cost for them to bring in that revenue was $1.6 billion. Kyocera, same period of time, $6.5 billion in revenue. The cost to bring in that revenue is $1.5 billion. Konica Minolta's costs are completely out of control. Completely out of control. This proves it. This is scary. This is where somebody needs to get with that whole entire management team at Konica Minolta. They're just like, just start slashing. I mean, everything across the board. Get rid of products that you're not getting any momentum on. Shut down business models that aren't working. Sell off all your direct operations. This is unsustainable. This is insanity. Ladies and gentlemen, Kyocera total liabilities as of September 30, 2023 were $7.8 billion. The total liabilities for Konica Minolta were $5.6 billion. Kyocera does $13.3 billion in annual revenue. Konica Minolta will do $7.4 billion in annual revenue. Kyocera's assets are $29.3 billion. Our friends over at Konica Minolta are $9.1 billion. Ladies and gentlemen, the percentages are way out of whack at Konica Minolta. Way out of whack. And they really have to figure out how to lower those damn costs and clean up those liabilities. I'm looking at the digital workplace, and folks, for 6 months into the digital workplace business unit, they had a total revenue of $2 billion, $66.5 million in operating profit. Of course, what does that really mean? I'm going to tell you right now, as far as Konica is concerned, in my opinion, until they get that whole company in some kind of reasonable, consistent operating profit, I don't really care what they do in these different divisions, because I don't really believe any of it. It's just crazy. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They got the magician flicking up the cards. You know, I mean, how do you even have any faith in any of this? You got this DWDX. That's where that IT business lives. This is the time they need to be breaking down the operating profit within these different business units in the business unit. I don't know why they can break down all the revenue numbers between the DWX and the office, but they can't break down the operating profit. Because I think if they rifle focused on the operating profit to deliver that DWDX, that all-covered, especially that all-covered stuff here in the United States, I think they're trying to take it across the world, they would realize this is completely dysfunctional. They'd probably shut the whole thing down. The inability of consistency is costly to Konica. And folks, I don't get excited when they have a quarter where they have operating profit. Because we've seen this before. Let's look at this professional print business. For the 6 months, they did $829.7 million in top line revenue. And folks, at the end of the day, for the last quarter, they had an $18.6 million operating profit, 6.5%. Of course, now they're calling it business contribution profit. But here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know why Konica Minolta is in the industrial print space. Let's be honest about it. Did $113 million for 6 months. That's a $200 million a year business. What's the cost for them to really be in that business, for the R&D of that business? Are they doing it because they just want to be in the big boy business? I think about Canon. I put a comparison over there. You know, they're going to run $2.6 billion in their production business unit. And, you know, when I think about the professional print business unit over at Konica Minolta, you got this marketing business in there, these marketing services, and it's just convoluted. It's just, when you look at Konica Minolta's business and their business units, you can't come away thinking, oh, this is all explainable and organized. It's a convoluted mess. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about forecasting. I asked the question, will the past forecasting skills repeat? I mean, let's go back to FY23, 6 months in, a year ago. Konica Minolta's operating profit for the 6 months in was a negative $33.9 million at that time. They were forecasting that they would do $99.7 million in operating profit. And they kept the forecast. Yep, we're going to hit that number. I mean, I did an episode, I did the math. This is impossible. You're never going to hit it. Well, they never did hit it. They ended up coming in last year's their worst year they ever had. Operating profit loss of $632 million. And they couldn't see that coming in 6 months. This is the issue that I see at Konica. It's just like they're not paying attention. You know, we can kick the can a little bit further down the road. We're all right. We don't have to do anything. We don't need to do anything. Let's not get rid of that dysfunctional business unit. Let's keep it. Let's keep these people that aren't really performing. We can keep them a little bit longer. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to make some serious changes over there at Konica Minolta. Serious changes. Speaking of their forecast. So the forecast for 2023, they want $7.6 billion top line revenue with an operating profit of $119.8 million. I put a picture of a pole vaulter over here, and she doesn't have a pole because the pole's so low to the ground, she doesn't need a pole. I mean, we're setting goals at sub 2% operating profit. That's the goal. I cannot imagine anybody that works for any of these other OEMs, whether it's Kyocera, Canon. I mean, it doesn't matter. Toshiba, Tech, Sharp, they're going to go into the management and say, yeah, we're forecasting an operating profit of 1.6%. We're going to get there, though. We've got the discipline. We're going to have to make some changes, We told all the officers they're not allowed to have 2 cups of coffee anymore. We're going to cut some money there. We told those guys in Cincinnati to turn them damn lights off when they go out and make cold calls. Ladies and gentlemen, this is absurdity at its best. You got a company that's been in absolute turmoil for 3 years. They're in their 4th year. They had to go to their investors at the end of last year and say, hey, hang on with us a little longer. I know we broke the covenants of our loans, but we're going to get there. We told the guys in Cincinnati to turn the lights off when they go out of the office. Ladies and gentlemen, they need to do a whole lot more than that. They've got to cut some costs, and they got to take this serious. And I don't see them doing it. Konica Minolta loves to tell people, if we didn't have the impairment charge, this is what it would have been. If it wasn't happened on a Saturday, this is what would have happened. It doesn't matter. It happened, right? So I'm asking Konica Minolta, without these things would be different too, right? I think about this all-covered business. I've talked about this before, ladies and gentlemen. Before Konica Minolta bought All Covered, the 3 years prior to that, All Covered ran around and they bought up 15 companies, or 16 companies within 3 years of Konica buying them. That company has never been able to grow organically, obviously. Konica buys a company that's never been able to grow organically, that ran around on a shopping spree. What do? Well, they start another shopping spree. Since Konica Minolta had All Covered, they bought 24 companies underneath that. We all know the craziest company they ever bought was that Forza one. So that sets an example of probably what the rest of these things are. But obviously, this is an issue. And Konica could easily say, boy, if we didn't do all of this, how much better off we'd be. I think you'd be really better off. Had you not done all of this, Konica Minolta, I think you would be killing it. I think you'd have huge operating profit percentages. I think you'd be giving Kyocera and the rest of these folks a run for their money. But I believe you got into these businesses because you're a company that chases squirrels. You catch those squirrels, but you don't know how to integrate that squirrel into your infrastructure. Does anybody remember the Workplace Hub? Ladies and gentlemen, the Workplace Hub is basically the joke of the industry. We all know it. I've done some satire on it myself. It's a joke. I'll bet you Konica's thinking, God, if we just didn't do that, things would be a lot better. I'm thinking about the 3D systems thing they did. We're going to be with 3D systems. Ladies and gentlemen, now we got this 4X AI. What is all that? 4X AI, they're showing the cost and the loss in corporate, etc. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I believe that Konica lacks the discipline, lacks the strength to do what they got to do to get that company on the right track. I get it. Y'all made some money in the digital workplace business unit. Y'all made some money in the professional print business unit. But at the end of the day, if that conglomerate falls off the cliff, guess what? You're falling off it with them. Something's got to change. And that change needs to come pretty soon. Because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.